On a cold evening in downtown Chicago, life moved quickly, cars honked, people rushed, and the city lights flickered. Amid all the noise, a homeless man sat quietly on the sidewalk, holding a small sign that read, "Hungry, anything helps." His clothes were torn, his hands trembling from the cold, and his eyes carried the pain of endless nights without shelter. A kind passerby, noticing his condition, stopped and handed him a warm burger and a bottle of water. The man's eyes filled with gratitude as he whispered, "Thank you." He opened the wrapper with excitement, ready to have his first meal of the day. But then, something unexpected happened. Just a few feet away sat another homeless man, shivering and staring at the food with hungry eyes. Instead of finishing the meal alone, the man paused. Without hesitation, he broke the burger into 2 pieces and handed half to the other man. Both smiled, as if sharing that meal was worth more than gold. For a moment, the world slowed down, and their laughter echoed louder than the noise of the city. People passing by couldn't believe it. A man who had almost nothing still chose to give away half of what little he had. It was a powerful reminder that kindness isn't about abundance, it's about sharing, even when you have little. This story never made it to the news, but for those who witnessed it, it was unforgettable. That single act of compassion showed that humanity still exists, and sometimes, those who have the least are the ones who give the most. It was a freezing night in Montana, where snowstorms often turn highways into dangerous traps. A mother was driving back home with her 2 children after visiting relatives. Suddenly, her car engine sputtered and died in the middle of the icy road. The temperature was dropping fast, and fear gripped her heart as passing cars sped by, unwilling to stop. She wrapped her children in whatever blankets she had, but the car quickly grew colder. Hours seemed to stretch, and panic began to set in. Just then, headlights from a massive truck appeared in the distance. The truck slowed down and pulled over. Out stepped a tall truck driver, his beard covered in frost. "Need some help, ma'am?" he asked warmly. The mother explained her situation, shivering. Without a second thought, the driver opened his truck, brought out thick blankets, and wrapped them around the kids. He even gave them hot chocolate from his thermos. Then, rolling up his sleeves, he inspected the car. With quick thinking, he managed to restart the engine temporarily, just enough to get them to the nearest gas station. But he didn't stop there. He drove behind them for 20 miles, making sure they reached safety. When the mother offered him money, he shook his head and smiled. "I've got kids too. I'd hope someone would do the same for them." That night, a truck driver became their guardian angel on the road. The story didn't appear on TV, but for that family, it was bigger than any headline. It was proof that kindness exists in the most unexpected places, even in the middle of a snowstorm. In New York City, a young college student named Emily walked into her campus bookstore, her heart heavy. She had just started her semester, but the list of required textbooks was overwhelming. She worked part-time at a coffee shop, and even after saving every dollar, she still didn't have enough. As she placed her books on the counter, the cashier quietly totaled the amount, over $400. Emily's face turned pale. She fumbled through her wallet, counting bills and coins, but came up short. Her eyes welled up with tears as she whispered to the cashier, "I guess I'll have to put some of them back." Students in line watched, but no one said a word. Just then, a man standing behind her stepped forward. "Keep them all. I've got it," he said, sliding his credit card across the counter. Emily gasped, "No, I can't let you," but the man interrupted with a kind smile, "Consider it an investment in your future." The cashier scanned the books and handed the receipt to Emily, who could barely speak through her tears. She turned to thank the man, but he simply nodded and walked away, leaving her stunned. Later, Emily shared the story with her classmates, calling him her silent angel. She said it wasn't just the money, it was the reminder that there are people in the world who believe in helping strangers with no expectation in return. The act never made it to the evening news, but for Emily, it was life-changing. That kindness not only gave her the tools to succeed in her studies but also inspired her to promise herself, one day, she would do the same for someone else. In a small town in Texas, there was a family-owned restaurant known for its homemade meals and warm hospitality. Business was tough, especially after the pandemic, yet the owner, Mr. Daniels, believed that food should never be a luxury, it was a basic right. One chilly evening, he noticed a homeless man peeking through the window, staring longingly at the steaming plates inside. Instead of turning him away, Mr. Daniels walked out and invited him in. The man hesitated, ashamed of his worn-out clothes. But Mr. Daniels smiled and said, "In here, everyone's family." He seated him at a corner table and served a hot meal, free of charge. Soon, word spread around town, and more people in need began showing up. Some customers whispered, worried about the cost. But instead of backing down, Mr. Daniels put up a small sign at the counter. "If you are hungry and cannot pay, your meal is on us. Kindness is our currency." To everyone's surprise, something amazing happened. Regular customers started leaving extra money, sometimes paying for 2 or 3 meals in advance. A kindness wall was set up where people could pin receipts for meals already paid for. Anyone in need could simply take a receipt and eat without shame. The restaurant soon became more than just a place to eat, it became a symbol of community and compassion. People from nearby towns came not only for the food but also to experience the spirit of generosity. This heartwarming story never made it to primetime news, but for those who ate there, it was unforgettable. A simple act of feeding the hungry turned into a movement of kindness that nourished both body and soul. In a quiet neighborhood of Ohio, an elderly widow named Mrs. Thompson lived alone in a small, crumbling house. Her late husband had been a war veteran, and since his passing, life had grown increasingly difficult. The roof leaked whenever it rained, the porch was falling apart, and the heating barely worked during harsh winters. With no savings left, she felt trapped in silence and despair. One day, a local veterans group learned about her situation. Many of them had served alongside her husband years ago and felt a deep responsibility to honor his memory. Without hesitation, they gathered their tools, bought supplies with their own money, and showed up at her doorstep one Saturday morning. Mrs. Thompson opened the door, shocked to see a group of men and women in work clothes smiling at her. "We're here to fix your home, ma'am," one of them said. Her eyes filled with tears, and for the first time in months, she felt hope. Over the next 2 weeks, these veterans worked tirelessly. They replaced the roof, repaired the porch, painted the walls, and even installed a new heating system. Neighbors joined in, bringing food and drinks for the volunteers. Laughter and teamwork filled the air, transforming the old house into a safe and welcoming home once again. When the project was finished, Mrs. Thompson stood on her new porch, overwhelmed with gratitude. "You didn't just fix my house. You gave me back my dignity and peace," she whispered. The veterans simply saluted and said, "It's the least we could do, for him, and for you." Though no news channel covered the story, the act of love spread through the community, reminding everyone that true heroes don't just fight wars. They fight loneliness, hardship, and despair with kindness.